So, folks, uh, a man by the name of Sam Seder uh, went on a show called Surrounded where he debated a gauntlet of 20 conservative Trump supporters. And I haven't watched it yet, but there's a reason why on my soundboard I have this.
Oh no, Sam Seder. Wow, what a fucking nightmare.
And let me tell you, Sam Seder is not a nightmare for any sane person who isn't rabid conservative that doesn't know anything about anything. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is my Christmas 2. This is my Super Bowl 2. You know, like this is what I fucking live for. And I'm real excited. Let's take a look at the intro, shall we?
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
Which you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I gotta be
I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting it like right off the bat. I wasn't expecting someone just right off the bat to be like, yeah, what's wrong with being a xenophobic nationalist? What's wrong with hating other people who aren't American? I don't understand. Can you explain it to me? And like, oh, child, like you're asking it with like this innocent naivete. You know, like you've just never had the idea that xenophobia is bad introduced to you before. You know? God. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff.
honest with you, like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report, and today I am surrounded by 20 conservatives.
Can I just say that one, I have made these subtitles absolutely colossal, and I just noticed. I might keep them. Number two, I know the premise of this is to like turn political debate into like a weird game show for social media clicks. I understand the premise of it, but also my brain is, you know, a bit addled. You know, like when I hear the premise of this show and see like the setup for it, you know, there's a part of my brain that's just like, you know, does anyone get it? I hope you do. Yeah, it's a couch. It's just a couch. There's nothing more to it. It's just a couch. Anyway, today Sam Seder is surrounded. And yeah. What? Okay. God.
My first claim is Trump.
Wait, fact checked by San? What does that mean? Wait. Go to San Surrounded? Straight Arrow News. This seems fake. What access original Straight Arrow News reporting, opinions, and commentary. One of the wildest things about this to me, like, there we go. Wait, what? Sorry, the top news story is a InfoWars reporter violently killed? Wait, which one? Is it anyone we know? Jamie White. Why is... Do I know that? Huh. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. I feel like maybe I've seen him on the show before. We cover a fair amount of InfoWars, but it's been a while. And of course, Alex Jones is taking the opportunity to blame people he doesn't like for the slaying. Cool stuff. Please be Paul Joseph Watson. All right.
My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
You know what? I love Sam because I guarantee you every single one of his claims are just as solid as this one. Like, oh boy. I gotta be honest, I don't care about the whole, like, who's gonna get there first element of this.
No worries.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around
Oh, this was taped in January, so like not like a week or two. Well, I guess 2 weeks ago would have been January. Yeah. It's oh, dirt. I was like, yeah, if you go back 2 weeks, it's January. Nope, that's February. Yeah. Okay, so Trump would have only been in office for like 2 weeks. Yeah. Cool. Good to know. Also, yeah, this guy this guy has a little bit too much intensity in his eyes. And I don't mean that in a good way. Like, this looks like a guy who would drink the Flavor Aid at Jamestown, okay? Like, he looks like he's locked in.
Democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to support the issues that, people are voting for him for.
I believe Donald Trump would want to support the issues that people are voting for is his main point. And that is such a bad rebuttal. Resting cult face. Exactly, PC Shores. Oh man, we are going to get some real winners. Did he say anything? No, what he said was essentially... Was that a sentence? It was an attempt at one. What he said was essentially like, well, Donald Trump isn't trying to, get power and money out of this. He's, Donald Trump supports what people voted for him to support. Which, like, he's just following the will of the people, essentially. And, No, he doesn't give a shit about that.
I'm talking about his whole
Right.
attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, right? You know that.
Right.
In government agencies. The A being
I love that Sam constantly refocuses it to include the A, because the A is super fucking important, and one of the things they want to try and hide most about the Donald Trump attacks about what they typically just call DEI. You know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility.
for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible to get into a job. It rather wants to de-incentivize.
Oh boy. You're literally ending the systems that guys, okay. One thing you need to understand about the EIA, right, programs is that and affirmative action in general is that affirmative action was essentially a set of legal frameworks in order to avoid set it up in order for companies to have plausible deniability that they were not discriminating against people on the basis of race, gender, sex, etc. That's the entire point of these affirmative action programs. It was to protect the companies first and foremost from those claims. It's the same way with diversity consultants that would get brought in. Those were not necessarily there to actually make a difference in the culture of a workplace, though in some cases they did. But primarily it was so that when an employee tried to sue the company for discrimination, the company could point at, well, we did diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And we also have these robust affirmative action programs. And that would save them tons of money in lawsuits because the court would just be like, no, sounds like they checked off all of those things, right? That's what they were doing there. It's doing the bare minimum so you don't lose money in lawsuits. And yeah, basically these people's brains are so cooked. These Trump supporting brains are so cooked that that basically they want to roll back these programs because they believe that those programs gave preferential treatment to minorities over, white, straight, cis, het men, that's what they believe. They believe it's the term has fallen out of favor more recently, but it was used so much like a decade ago. And I think it really applies because I think it's patently obvious how ridiculous it is, but they think it's an example of reverse racism, which, is an inherently funny term that I gets at kind of a contradiction in their concept of what's happening.
Devise corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
Yeah, see, they're discriminating against the skilled white workers by hiring the non-white workers, you see.
Okay, but DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right. And
that's actually a really, really, really good example, right? The idea that unpaid internships were essentially a way to weed out people from lower classes. Therefore, and it's not always intentional. Sometimes a company just was small, didn't have the means to be able to hire someone and pay them an intern wage, but like, what is the effect of that? Well, the effect of that is you suddenly don't have an entire swath of people, not because they're not good at the job and not because they aren't talented and not because they couldn't be amazing later on assets to the company, but because they're poor, because their family doesn't have wealth, you know? So that's a really good example. I appreciate Sam being able to bring that up at the drop of a hat and tie it in with DEI, because you can tell that this guy that he's talking to is, when he says DEI, he's thinking of black people. And Sam positioning this not as only applicable to race, but also to, class, I think is a clever way of redirecting the conversation in a way that this guy is absolutely unprepared for.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
Sure.
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. This is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have.
It's great that he's like, well, yeah, actually, I agree with that one. I agree that we shouldn't. Yeah, we should have policies and programs in place to not discriminate based on class. but ultimately we as Republicans, we disagree with other things, though.
Have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well,
so
then why
everyone gets
rescind DEIA requirements?
I love Sam knows when to get in there. Sam knows when to get in there. He knows when to take a yes. It's great.
In government agencies.
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporate.
Well, there might not be actual quotas, but it feels like it devolves into that, and like ultimately that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about, guys. This guy is like, well, there might not actually be quotas, but it feels like it. And to this guy, it's feels over reals. For every single person in this room, it's feels over reals. It doesn't matter what's real. Doesn't matter what the facts are. They just feel like DEIA is bad because in their mind, there's a hypothetical, super competent Ubermensch who's white, who is losing out to these jobs to, black, disabled lesbian who can't do the job as well. And that's just not the case. But that's like their scary idea in their head.
Do you have the evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper basis. We can even look at. We can even look at.
Would you have
DNC's,
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even.
Do you have a single shred of any fact to show me that this is happening? Do you have examples? Like, I don't know, like 1, 2, 3?
In the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year, there was no reason to nominate Kamala as she was.
There was no reason to nominate Kamala Harris by the DNC. It's not like she was the fucking vice president. Dog. Sam barely has to talk to these people. Sam has said like 3 sentences to this man, and he's already twisted himself into knots. Amazing stuff.
wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't.
This has nothing to do with DEI, man.
She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI?
She wasn't
higher?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that party,
Do you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972?
Well, sure.
I'm fucking dying. Oh my god. Oh. Do you realize that you literally don't know anything about our political history? Oh my god. One of the best parts about these shows, and I'm usually not a big fan, but this is top tier for me. One of the best parts is that usually every single one of these people who attends these like debates are also like social media figures. So most of these people who are going to come up and try and talk to Sam have their own social media like companies and messaging and like, you know, audiences who support and follow them and think that they're smart. And like they're going to have to go back to their audiences and like explain this shit. Explain how they got their ass beat so hard. It's going to be like it's gonna be like Sam used his witchcraft to seduce us with his pepper gray beard, and we were just so distracted that like we couldn't come up with an argument. Like that's like the best they got to explain their poor performance, and I'm here for it. It's a bit. Oh man, no, it's not a bit. It's Christmas too. A new holiday.
But this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well, sure.
I mean, Joe Biden should have dropped out even 3 years ago, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she didn't. Okay. She wasn't the next man up.
She literally became the vice president, dude. What are you talking about?
She wasn't the next person.
Well, she was the vice president,
right? Of course, but she wasn't in primaries.
Detail. But
right,
listen.
Well,
oh man, does Sam still do stand up? Does Sam still do like stand up comedy? Because like, holy moly, this man! I bet this man had excellent like heckler control. You know, like just. I want to see him. I want to see him roast rowdy audience members. This basically is Sam's stand up. That's true. He is sitting down though, so technically it's his sit down.
Aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well, but that has nothing to do with Trump.
I'm sorry.
A different candidate as well, but that has.
Look, not to be too down on anyone's appearance, okay? But like, bro, I'm just throwing it out there for you. Do literally anything to not come across like a mass shooter. Do literally anything about your appearance to not come across that way. Like, you know, for example, you could do some paint on eyebrows. You know, maybe you could do like some paint on eyebrows that make your face look less like you're about to murder somebody. Just, you know, I don't know, like, just spitballing here. Scary as fuck.
has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job. You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If
You know, it's always wonderful when people try and argue against DEIA, and then they're like, sure, yeah, I mean, sure, it'd be good if the disabled could get into the building, I guess. But like, it's not like if we took away those programs, disabled people wouldn't be able to get into the buildings. Like, people aren't gonna like take away the ramps, Sam, except that that's exactly what these companies want to do. It's exactly why conservatives for literal decades have tried to get rid of the ADA. Like, they want to get rid of those things so that they can save money. Like they like they literally, if you take away these programs, people are going to make it impossible for people with disabilities to get in and use their services or work in their properties. Like, that's just a fact, and we know it's a fact because we can look at history and see when we didn't have those programs and see how life was like. And it was full of discrimination against people with disabilities. God.
you have folks who identify as, as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not, this is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
Okay. We're just gonna back up and watch that guy's reaction one more time.
This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this.
What the fuck? What the fuck? And I'm just gonna say something here. This guy, look, you might not, you might be like 20, okay? So I'm just throwing this out there. With this haircut and the clothes you're wearing and just how you look, you, my friend, need those anti-discrimination protections. I'm throwing that out there, my guy. Like, you need those. If you don't have those, you're screwed. You have no idea how right you are about this man. Was my assessment of him in the literal, like, 1 second amount of time his face took up the entire screen completely and 100% correct? What can I say? I'm a student of the conservative mind.
This is all
But you're
about
cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issue.
They except that they're getting rid of all of the DEI, my guy. They're not like keeping some of the good bits. They're getting rid of all of it. Absolute dick shit.
That guy in the background is giving Sling Blade.
Did text-to-speech just read as I don't know how to react to that. All right. Sorry. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Sorry, you're blue.
Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said, had nothing to do with quotas.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific
what
numerical
else was he trying to take out?
This guy has no idea what he's talking about.
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into...
Example? You were asked for an example before, sir, of people, getting jobs that they don't deserve. And your go-to example was the vice president of the United States succeeding the president of the United States on the ticket when he dropped out of the race. Which is not an example of that. That was your go-to example of a thing, and it wasn't an example of the thing you were talking about. So, like, any other evidence, perhaps?
The positions
no
they have no
evidence.
qualification.
Wait, what the fuck is bro yapping about? Basically, his position is brown people are being hired to do jobs worse compared to white people who would otherwise be hired. If I'm going to like simplify it down, that's his point. He believes that there are hypothetical, white straight men out there who are hyper competent and are being passed over for these jobs in order to give them to Black and brown people who are less qualified. It's just racism. It's just racism. Full stop. And it's racism with a veneer that conservatives love, which is, it allows them amongst themselves to deny that they're racist. They're like, oh, we're not racist. We just want, the best person for the job. And it just so happens that the best person for the job every single time is a white, straight, cis man. They're not racist, though. It's just white, straight, cis people are somehow always the best candidates for the jobs in their minds. Almost like there's something that renders a lot of Black and brown people incapable in their minds of holding said jobs. Why do they drop the A from DEIA? Because in their minds, they're talking about Black people. And it is inconvenient to them to recognize that the gutting of these DEIA programs also includes accessibility, because kind of gives the whole game away.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to.
You came to a debate and you don't have like a single goddamn example
pull up for you. You can't,
Give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up numbers when I'm not, I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you. But
give me one example. I can't give you numbers. I can't back up my beliefs. Oh, look, I get all my facts and figures from Q, okay? Like, I need to Google the latest Q drop. And you know what? The best part about this is that I know the entire time here, Sam is sitting there and thinking to himself, please, give me a worthy adversary. I have waited so long. My blade has begun to rust. I require but one warrior of equal cunning to spar with. I must again feel the thrill of battle flow through my veins. And yet there are none worthy to stand and face me. It really does feel like that. Just a...
these are
How would
problems
you
that
even-
conservatives...
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your
Thanks,
seat.
Sam.
Thanks, man.
I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue,
like it's always a great moment when someone steps up to debate you and instantly concedes that you have a bunch of really good points. It's always nice when someone comes in and is like, yeah, like DEIA has a lot of really good points, actually. It's like you're already halfway there to admitting that it's good.
And I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused.
Okay, now, to be fair,
Heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine.
this is the lady from the opening, right? Is she, or is she not just sitting there and thinking like the entire time, why is a black man speaking at this event? Like I like genuinely just absolute racism eye vibes.
That a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused.
How could they allow one of them in? Like it's genuine. Like all of these conservatives hate each other. It's the swastika Karen. Damn, I have not seen that term before. God. Wait, she's unironically an open Nazi? Oh, okay.
In a lot of ways, when you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of...
What? I'm sorry. When you're having white male actors being told we do not want white men for this role, what are you talking about, man? That's what casting for movies is. You go out there and you cast movies for the roles you have. Is it too woke now to cast for your movie? I you know, something tells me 12 Years a Slave probably wouldn't have hit as well if it was about a white guy. You know, I think maybe you know, casting Chris Pratt in that role would not in fact have led to a good film, actually. I don't know. I don't know. I think that maybe it's actually okay to cast people in movies on a basic level. I think that's fine. Oh god. I just, oh my god. Yeah, it was a real tragedy when they you know, denied the role of Malcolm X to white men. You know, in the biopic. It's what are you talking about, man? Fucking insane. I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of trouble like getting over this particular argument. God.
Gender, race, right? That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair, but more about just...
Look at his fucking face. Oh god. I'm sorry. It's now it's DEI to cast women in roles and men in roles. What? Yeah, it was really sexist when they didn't cast women for the dancer roles in Magic Mike.
Just perpetuating one aspect of, you know, visual compelling aspects, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay, well,
and what that is it's moral ground.
I love that this guy's like, at the end of the day, what it's going to look like is, hypothetically, companies wanting to do this, maybe. It's like, do you have examples of that? And no, you don't.
Standing is saying because we have more black women, we sell better soda, like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from.
I'm sorry, did he just say that a company is gonna say we've hired more black women, therefore we have better soda products? It was real. A lot of people never understood it, but Gilbert Godfrey was discriminated against his entire career. Not because his voice wasn't right for a lot of roles, but because he was a white straight cis man. Lost out on so many different roles. Belle from Beauty and the Beast. The voice of Pocahontas. He missed out on so many major acting roles because of all of these woke DEI programs. I just justice for Gilbert Gottfried. It's fucking no, every aspect of this, there's no merit to it whatsoever. It's just insanity. It's just reactionary insanity.
What Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years is nothing. I don't know what.
I love that Sam is able to address the weird segue into acting, and then but then it manages to bring it back around to government regulation, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the government.
What you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is...
Wait, Super Jet Guy, they're already saying that. They're already saying that because their main stance is that white, straight, cis men are being discriminated against in Hollywood because casting decisions exist for a limited number of roles. So they're already saying that's already baked into the argument.
It's one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job.
I think what's happening is we're talking about 2 different things.
But I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
it's amazing. He's like, oh well, we're talking about 2 different things. It's like you brought a knife to a gunfight, my friend.
You're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a whole.
Wait, but the topic is literally Trump's attacks on DEI hide his real goal, which is to give corporations more power. That's the prompt.
have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't
Citation fucking needed.
think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking.
Can I just say, when you say the majority of Americans believe X with no backing whatsoever, and then it's about DEIA, and like someone's just like, no one even knows what this is. Most people have no fucking idea what DEIA means, and like on top of that, you're like, well, that sure, maybe, like, what are you doing? You're already floundering so hard. Yeah, it just over and over again, the pattern is that may be true. You may be 100% correct about that.
Talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is,
wait, what does the A stand for? It stands for accessibility. Like, for example, like accessible workplaces for people who, have mobility disabilities so that they can come in and work and aren't discriminated against. Because like in the old days, what would happen is if you had a disability, like your company would be like, well, you can't get in the door, so we're not going to hire you. But some of these accessibility programs, like the ADA, for example, require buildings to have like elevators, ramps, etc. Yeah. Railings in bathrooms, wheelchair accessible bathrooms, stuff like that, Aren't veterans also recognized under DEIA? Yes. There are a lot of veterans that are, disabled. Did people even use it with the A on the end before Trump's executive order? They did, but it was broadly being used by conservatives to attack, race programs based on race, gender, sexuality, etc. But like internal to the government, it's called DEIA. Yeah, you have to keep in mind a lot of these buzz terms like critical race theory, CRT, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, they're all demonized and like injected into the conservative consciousness by Christopher Rufo, who's one of the most prolific conservative hatchet men around. He's also the guy who popularized trans kids in sports as like the wedge issue to politicize trans people. He's had his finger in all kinds of different pies. And awkwardly, in the time we live in, he's put out a statement confirming that his wife is undocumented. It's very bizarre.
not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white,
What people were seeing is citation needed.
you can't do this. And liberals like to do this thing where they create systems, and then they created the whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, well, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that. And then we have this we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in.
It's insane because nothing he said has anything to do with the prompt or the talking point or the argument. Literally nothing he said had anything to do with this.
Reality.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
Yes,
without
but
a doubt.
so why did
It's amazing. It's fucking crazy. They all giggle like there's blood in the water because like yeah, we had a black woman as vice president for the first time. Like that's kind of a big deal. You know, like I don't know, it is a meaningful opportunity.
Democrats move away from that and say, no, it wasn't because she was a black woman.
I don't know what Democrats...
my point is that
it's not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like, he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying, that there aren't, because again, and even
it's interesting because that is what you're saying, though. You're saying that there aren't any qualified black women because the only reason someone would pick Kamala Harris is because she's an unqualified black woman. That's what you are saying. That she was unqualified for the job because, there were more qualified white women or white men out there.
Even in the Republican Party right now, and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No,
I fucking love that. I fucking love it. Well, a white man married a woman of color, so obviously he can't be doing and saying racist things, is one of the most insane takes you could possibly have. One of the most... Guys, there are so many people who date, like, someone of color who are still racist. The guy who popularized critical race theory and demonized DEI, his wife is from India. Like, I don't know. You can be hella racist and still, like, date somebody who's non-white.
But if J.D. Vance,
It's not like some weird get out of jail free card that you can play.
was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of her skin.
I'm not here to...
What the fuck? Hey, does anyone remember when Kamala Harris's husband was white and was constantly lauded for the color of his skin? Does anyone remember that? Does anyone? No. Oh, okay. Because that's fucking weird as hell.
To defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. That's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing.
Interesting point to throw out there, Sam. I don't think I don't think that this guy is really prepared to deal with that, frankly.
The night before last, I emailed Gavin Newsom to let him know that platforming Charlie Kirk is a great way to be voted out of office.
Excellent work, One-Eyed Heathen. We need a million more like you. And thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate the support.
You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run in a...
It's really interesting here that, like, he hears 85% of the Republican Party is white, and he's like, does that mean they're less moral? Like, that wasn't the point Sam was making there, bud, but it's really interesting that your brain went there. It's really interesting where your brain took that immediately. Interesting stuff. Oh, and Super Jet Guy, it's not a kimono, it's a button-up shirt that I have tied at the waist. Yeah, it's kind of telling on yourself a little bit. Exactly.
they can't run an effective
It's just
government.
the idea
What does
that, listen,
race have
they-
to do? What
they
does
don't
race have to do?
say-
Hold on. What does
Donald
race?
Trump didn't have to
what
say,
does race
my
have
vice
to
president's
do?
going to be a white
no,
male.
No, what
because
does,
they all knew it was going to
No,
be.
this is the premise of DEI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DEI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to
Ask me
get
a
better
question.
nuggets?
Listen, I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white,
I will.
what?
Whoa. You know, can Sam answer the question? This guy's been just talking back to him a lot, like just like talking over him, you know? Like, you know, kind of the way someone does when they're scared to continue engaging with this topic, you know? The DEI chicken nuggets aren't real. They can't hurt you.
What does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it is. First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same like physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt.
Yep. I think the example I would introduce if I was in Sam's place would be like an example from Silicon Valley, right? There's like a really famous, let me see if I can just find it real quick. Oh, thank you for the $20 dono, one-eyed heathen.
Congrats people after hours and leaving a message is a great way to completely bypass my fear of dealing with people. Might not be back before end of stream, so here is another dono.
Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and yeah, that can very much that can make a difference, you know? Here. This is a good example, and maybe a better one than what I was going to go with. Okay. But very specifically, here's from Johns Hopkins, Bloomberg School of Public Health. The problem with pulse oximeters: a long history of racial bias. And this is from last year. Okay. Now, basically, what's a pulse oximeter? It's a small device that clips around your finger and like shines a light through your skin, and measures your pulse and like blood oxygen, and generally is used to measure your vitals, right? However, there is a problem there. And it's a problem that's been known about since the 1990s, which is that the light these monitors use is designed to work better with white skin, because they were designed only with white people working on it, right? And so the pulse oximeters don't work as well with darker skinned folks. It's if let's see. Yeah, in 2022, the global pulse oximeter market was valued at 2.4 billion and is expected to reach 5.4 billion by 2033. But even though we've known that there is an issue when it comes to dark skin not being read properly by these sensors, it is only recently that people have started saying, hey, maybe we should address this. And yeah, let's just take a look here. Okay. Until recently, these findings were largely ignored and even denied by both manufacturers and regulators, and not well understood by clinicians, and allowing for the widespread proliferation of biased devices. In turn, regulations have not required that the devices work well across the full range of skin tones. Manufacturers have continued making devices designed to work best on lighter skin, and clinicians and medical students have largely been unaware of pulse oximeters' shortcomings. And COVID-19 was the turning point here, right? But like a lot of this came out of the company Nellcore in 1981, right? And a lot of the people and scientists working on this had fairer skin, right? So they designed a device, and because it was a largely homogenous group of people designing this device and testing this device, and because those people tended to have light skin, the problem just went undiscovered and proliferated. This is a case where diversity in that room would literally lead to better devices that save more lives. You know, when we talk about the need for diversity in the room, that's why. When we're talking about governmental policy, we want the perspectives of people from all different walks of life so we can figure out who is going to be impacted, you know? Because different people from different walks of life think differently, and that diversity of thought is, in fact, a strength. It's not rocket science, but the same problem that plagues pulse oximeters is the same kind of problem that plagues different technologies as well, like motion sensors in different buildings, or in like soap dispensers or what have you. It also plagues things like self-driving cars as another one, and like so many different aspects of this that need to be addressed and are addressed by having a diverse group of people in the room.
Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protect people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't.
Oh no, dude, no, we don't. Sweet summer child, no.
Don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better, can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right.
He literally ran out of there as fast as he could go. That's incredible. I need to go smooch my partner. Good night. I need to go before it's too late. Sha. Also, chat, would you believe that we are only 13 minutes into this video? Would you believe we are only 13 minutes into this Jubilee video? We are 1/10 of the way through this video. This may be kind of a multi-part adventure as we make our way through this, but like it's fascinating. I gotta be honest. I'm absolutely fascinated. We might take a day tomorrow to like go through this in more depth, you know? Also, how are we looking on those YouTube likes? I gotta take a look. Let's see here. We got almost 300 people watching on YouTube. And you know what? 182 likes. I think we can hit
Watching the
200.
single gear turning in all of their heads was almost as painful as watching Chuck Schumer praise discount Katie Britt.
Yeah. It is almost as painful. Like they share one brain cell. It's crazy. Yeah, we haven't gotten to like the most devastating parts of this yet. Oh god. All right. Good night, Dragonfly, and pet your cat extra for all of us. And Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you for keeping the riverboat afloat. Appreciate you. All right. I will say, I don't know what this guy's deal is, but I appreciate his awkward Bowser cosplay. Yeah, it's a good commitment to the bit. Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership. And you got Zeke the Beast, too. Couldn't have gone to one of the better members of chat. Thank you so much. All right. I love that this guy's just like, I'm going home.
Please return to your seat.
Oh no.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay. When it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Oh no. Oh no. How, Chad, how are, like, this is a gold mine. Like, literally every, like, 5 seconds of this is, like, clippable in some way. You know, like it's just like a shot, reverse shot, and by the reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, by the time the shot rolls back around, like, your opponent's already cooked.
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean,
I love that, like, Sam's like, yeah, I think everyone has like some racial biases that they need to contend with, and like, yeah, and this guy's just like, okay, and then moves on immediately.
The Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections.
They've literally called us demons. Like, I'm sorry, but like that, trying to reframe it there doesn't really work when literally paid transphobic content creators call us demons. It's not an exaggeration.
Back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their parents.
own children? Wait, children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are.
This guy is so fucking insincere. It's kind of endearing, like the transparency of his ploy is like, I don't know, like watching someone who's never told a lie before think that they're clever by telling a lie.
Rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions if with the kids.
If
of
a
course.
child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18,
he's so unprepared for the rebuttal of like, yeah, I think that I think that parents and doctors can make those decisions with their child, and he's like, children can't smoke or drink or have sex before the age of 18. And it's like, buddy, I got some news for you on those fronts. I got some news for you on those fronts. Okay? No one under 18 in America smokes, drinks, or has sex. Buddy, I got some news for you, okay? And also the difference there is that a doctor would advise against a teenager smoking, drinking, having sex, etc. But a doctor might prescribe gender affirming therapies for a trans child because these are not the same things.
they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in
Well,
terms of a
I don't know that
DEI
they can,
initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment as well as.
That's just not true. Like, we've had trans people in the military for like decades. It's just not true.
As depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills.
Yeah, dog. No one in the military takes depression pills or mood stabilizers.
And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your, whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever it may be, while
Yeah, they have doctors with them when they go out. Like, has he never heard of like a medic or like a military doctor or anything like that? Like, if they can transport fucking tanks to the other side of the planet, my guy, they can transport medicine. It's what are you doing? What are you doing?
while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war.
Well, the executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just revoked the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
Like,
we're not-
what are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
Honestly, like, they're rewriting history.
well, that's your perspective, right? But
they're removing books about slavery from military libraries. But that's just your perspective if you think it's rewriting history. By the way, in case you were like, that seemed like an oddly specific thing to mention, Jack, that's because I did a segment like a week ago about how, in fact, as part of these DEI executive orders from Trump, they are in fact removing books about slavery from military libraries for children being raised on military bases. So that's a thing that's already happening.
But at the end of the day, if a person
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to.
Wait, we should get rid of DEI programs so that we can see who the racists are? and we should allow rampant discrimination because then we'd know who's racist is maybe one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my life. Dog, what? Who are the Tuskegee Airmen? Oh God, can I find like a little video for you? Here. Oh, here.
They were pioneers who blazed a trail through the war-torn skies over Europe. Before the Tuskegee Airmen of World War II, no black American had ever been a U.S. military pilot. After the Tuskegee Airmen, the U.S. military would never be the same.
Yeah, it literally helped to integrate like the military. It was good stuff.
Widespread discrimination prevented African Americans from flying during the First World War. For the next 20 years, the pressure would slowly build to allow black pilots to serve in the sky. Finally, in 1941, the Army launched what it called an experiment, the segregated 99th Fighter Squadron. That squadron would train at an airfield near Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, and thus the Tuskegee Airmen were born. To be clear, not every airman was a pilot. For every man who flew, there were 10 keeping him in the air, men and women, military and civilian, who served on ground duty support, like mechanics, supply personnel, cooks, and more. And not all were black. Some were white, or Latino, or Native American. One notable woman who helped the Tuskegee Airmen take off into history was the First Lady of the United States. Eleanor Roosevelt visited the squadron in 1941 and insisted a black pilot take her up, and that photographs would be taken. These photographs helped convince President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to send the unit into action, first in North Africa and later in Europe. The 99th, along with other squadrons, would later form the 332nd Fighter Group in Europe, their planes boasting tails painted bright red.
George Lucas made a film. I think George Lucas made a film, Red Tails. It's about the Tuskegee Airmen. After the red tails on their fighter planes, and she this entire thing was groundbreaking for the time. Meant the huge amount to African Americans and to the wider security of the nation. Generally considered massive war heroes, and to the extent that like they were initially not given like direct combat roles and instead were, running patrol routes, and they actually had to go and fight the US military to let them know we want to go and fight for real and not just be symbolic. So that's kind of the deal.
The airmen would fly more than 15,000 sorties, completing an unequaled 1,500 combat missions, all while showing great courage, skill, and dedication. Among their decorations, 150 distinguished flying crosses. Squadron leader Benjamin O. Davis Jr. would eventually rise to the rank of 3-star general, receiving a 4th star post-retirement. The Tuskegee Airmen were deactivated in 1946. The experiment a great success, but more than that, the brave flyers had proved themselves in combat, and their performance helped pave the way for desegregation of the military in 1948. Today, the National Park Service...
Yeah, why didn't you learn about this in school? Racism. Yeah.
Service's Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site in Alabama helps tell their story and preserves their memory for all time.
Yeah. There you go. So, maybe forgetting them from history and not having them taught via executive order is probably bad. Maybe just throwing it out there.
To hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the end of the year when you create your tax returns. They give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
in government
businesses.
agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people of color.
And the other thing
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't. I didn't know it could get. I didn't know it could get this stupid. I. Chat. Chat. Why does he think government agencies get tax cuts? Who who told him that? Did someone train him wrong as a joke? Is this a Wimp Low situation? Did, did he go to school and they just taught him things that were just blatantly untrue to see as part of like a prolonged experiment to see how an actual moron would navigate society? Like I don't understand it. I'm 2 seconds from it getting dumber. I don't believe you. I can't believe you.
I
This
wanted
is
to,
to
and I,
protect
Child left behind alert.
the other
people
thing I
from
want to
discrimination.
the other thing I want to kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on
DEIA does
What?
not is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color,
No,
physical
it
attributes.
says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination
Discrimination against what?
against people who may have different.
Does he I'm sorry, does he genuinely not understand? Does he genuinely not understand that like what discrimination is? Does like d- when he says discrimination, what does he think it means? Us liberals push for people to not be as stupid and misinformed as that guy. No kidding, Mr. Anderson. I He saw Obama get elected as a kid and thought racism was over. It might not be far from the truth.
Cultural mores may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be based on merit. And
Yeah, it should be. Which is why you have a bunch of programs to stop discrimination in the workplace. That the point of the programs is to stop the discrimination on the basis of those physical characteristics. What is the disconnect here? This is purposeful. I genuinely don't believe that. I think this guy. I think these people are just dumb as bricks.
that is the emphasis
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but if the
Not
DEI,
if you get a
if the
tax
DEIA,
Get a tax cut. Holy fuck, dude.
I'm talking about Trump's rescission of
If
these
you
orders
received a
on
tax
these
cut as
agencies.
an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
If you could pay
How have they not kicked him yet? He's saying government agencies get tax cuts. What the fuck what does that even mean in his head? Does he think like the head of an agency is getting like kickbacks from the government for hiring like black people? Does he think that like if a government agency hires like a black person, like the government agency, like the head of the government agency gets a check from the US government? Cuz that's fucking crazy, dog. Yeah, I mean, he's either one of the dumbest people I've ever seen, or he's a shill. But I'm not exactly sure what being a shill in this context would get him. You know?
Pay them less?
Listen, we're talking about government agencies.
I really hope he preserves his. I hope he donates his body to science. You know, like it's just incredible. We need to understand. We need to understand the void between his ears.
That do not get tax cuts. They don't. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Oh my God.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies operate are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what?
Oh, the long suffering face of one Samuel Seder. Oh my God.
I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
I think the whole juxtapose.
He literally looks at the camera. He literally looks at the camera. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need to screenshot this. I need to screenshot this particular moment just so I can use it for the thumbnail, if for nothing else. Holy moly.
Of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every—
Yeah, no, but like that's the thing. That's why I was doing a bit earlier about like about how like Sam just yearns for an actual opponent. He yearns for the fight. You know, his long rusted blade, like stained with the blood of 1,000 unworthy foes, and his heart sings for combat once more to make him feel the thrill of going toe to toe with someone who is capable of having like a rational argument with him. God.
I like that. I love me a buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Because you feel like you have to. You're pressured to.
Yeah.
You're pressured. You're pressured into doing better.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax cuts.
All right, return to your seat.
At the end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone who speaks a different language or different skin color.
Oh my God. Oh my God. The tripling down on this is fucking crazy, dog. I hope this man is embarrassed.
I don't know how to respond to that.
That was fucking crazy. Genuine question, because I've been racking my brains to try and figure out what he might be like confusing for tax cuts, and I genuinely have no idea what he might be referring to. Is there anything, or is he just made this up whole cloth? Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe like, I don't know, conservative batshit radio.
Have you heard the gospel of the single brain cell?
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs, and I have indeed heard the good news of the unitary cell. the bliss that can be found by relieving yourself of the burden of the trillions of neurons that currently pulsate through your mind in favor of just the one eternal cell. Let your thoughts slow. Let your higher functions dwindle, and find oneness within the one. Unitary executive cell, genuinely.
How you doing?
Can I note something? Like, I don't really care about this musical chairs thing. Literally no one else was getting up except for these two guys. No one else even wanted to make a play for it after this.
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification, because I don't even know if we got it yet, on which part benefits corporations, like from your perspective.
So agencies, the U.S. government.
I love that we're now arriving at the part of the show where everyone has suddenly internally gone,
Oh no, Sam Seder. Wow, what a fucking nightmare.
and now they're just genuinely coming in here to ask him questions. They're genuinely just like, so how do you think this works?
Government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So
I do have a button on the soundboard for that, Kalishna, because it's surprising how often it comes up.
the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited, because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm gonna dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, you can't do that, we're gonna fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're gonna take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river. And those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're gonna get cancer, they're gonna get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is. And society bears the cost of that.
Can you connect the dots for me, though? Because
he just connected the dots for you, man. Yeah, the company dumps the stuff in the river because it's cheaper to dump it than to properly dispose of it. The community around that bears the costs because the company saved costs by not properly disposing of the chemicals. That means they have more money, and they use that money to give those to pump up their profits and give those out to shareholders and their private owners, shareholders if they're public, private owners if they're not. That's how this works, right? The regulations prevent them from doing that. When you deregulate, that allows for that type of exploitation of the community, exploitation of the commons, as it were.
it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Votes thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree, if this is about demoralizing, I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it?
Well, the government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policy.
But if most people don't know what the DEI policies are, then that can't possibly, you've already said like most people, you've already kind of accepted the premise most people don't know what DEIA is, so you can't say like people are demoralized by you can't say people are demoralized by something they don't know about. Like sorry, that the logic doesn't follow there.
Policies in the military and other organizations, not just the military.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any
Nah, we're good. So, folks, we have now finished part 1 of our journey through this miraculous and wonderful tale. And we're going to continue on this journey, but I think I'm going to need to break this up into chunks because I'm having a lot of fun breaking it down bit by bit, moment by moment as we go through it. I feel like you guys are having fun with it too. Hope I'm not off base on that. And yeah. Oh, we're not even a third of the way through, Neon. We're like maybe a fifth of the way through. We're 20 minutes into a 90-minute video. But folks, this is the end of part 1. If you're enjoying the show, hit that follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream. Very important that you like it and share the stream if you are enjoying it. And consider dropping those subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc.
The average death cultist isn't demoralized by anything, as can be seen by none of these 20 just getting up and leaving.
Sake Tenuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I very much appreciate it because this show is brought to you by viewers like you. And I like being able to continue living in this hell world and talking about it so that we can maybe make it better.